So today we're going to work on the kitchen galley. I've already started it. As you can see, got the wall separating the sleeper portion and the galley in. So this side wall here, that only goes up, I don't know, 2/3 of the way. Behind this is all the plumbing. There's an access door to access that. Where the battery's sitting here, this is where the sink will go. Once I get that installed, my plan is to have cabinets probably about this height here, all the way across. I still need to insulate these walls, the ceiling. Before I do that, I need to run some wiring through. But today I'm going to work on the battery compartment and electrical compartment. So my battery, charge controller, inverter, fuse panel, all that's going to go under this countertop here. So the way I did it, made this section of the countertop removable, routed a lip here to help lift it up. Also routed this in, little lip there. So this is 1.5 inch butcher block countertop. This can just pull out, or you can just stand it up here to access the battery electrical compartment. So I got this all framed in, sided. That hole there is going to be where all the electrical passes through the wall into the electrical compartment. Down here, just got this pass through for shore power, and then I kind of butchered this cutout here, as you can see, but I figured I'll leave it because it's in here, you'll never see it. But that's access to the USB outlets on the exterior of the camper. Alright, so I got the solar controller mounted the inverter and the fuse panel. My plan is I'll have, I can't remember, 1 or 2 outlets. At least one on the inside of the galley, and then one on the sleeper portion, 110. I'll plug into here, into the inverter, but then if I want to run shore power for those outlets, my plan is to unplug them and plug them into the shore power to where you can not have to use a solar for the 110 if needed. Okay, so installing my battery compartment vents, I think what I'm going to do, so I got this style vent made by Technic. I think I'm going to mount that somewhere like right in here. The reason is this is the inside part. This will sit flush, so it won't be in the way of the battery in this wall here. Now this other vent, just to get kind of air circulation, what I'm going to do, so I think I'll mount this kind of like in here somewhere. So air will come in, be able to circulate and go out, or vice versa. So I got this installed. So I got butyl tape, as you can see, squeezing out right here. So I found with this butyl tape is you want to let it sit for like a day and then come back and you can trim the excess, because it'll slowly ooze out over like 24 hours. So I'll wait like a day. Maybe tomorrow I'll come here, trim the butyl tape excess off, and I'll put a bead of caulk, Sikaflex around it. And I'll also cover the screw heads too, just to ensure no chance of it leaking. So you can see that's the inside vent. So I got the vents installed. I already showed you this one, but I got that one, the other side one installed. You probably see the screen in there. And the exterior here, so I do got butyl tape in there, but what I'll do, so all this butyl tape kind of set a little bit, then I'll go around and caulk all the way around. Same thing with caulking over the screw holes here. Okay, so here's what I came up with for the battery mount. Have basically these bars here to throw the battery in, and I'll kind of show you my idea how I'm going to keep it from popping up. So we'll drop the battery in. So that keeps it in place where it needs to be. So now my idea is I'll just take a piece of this half-inch birch plywood, 2-inch strip. I'm just going to screw it, maybe like 2 screws here. I might use a longer piece from here to here, maybe put 3 screws. But the idea then is once that's screwed in, the battery can't pop up. So I'm going to start working on hooking up my solar panels up on the roof. I got 3 100-watt Renogy Solar panels. So I got my cables for the panels. Got my tray cables to hook the charge controller to the battery. And because I'm running 3 panels, I ordered this kit here, cable kit, and then I ordered these connectors where I can hook 3 panels up and then run them from that point through the roof. I do have the roof pass through here. About the 2-pack, I only think I need 1. But basically that's what these are. Run the cables through. Got these on Amazon. I think I got all this on Amazon. So what I'll need to do is I'm going to run the cables through this wall, and then down in my electrical compartment under the cabinet here, I already have a hole drilled for the cables to come through. So on the interior of the camper, so I'm going to drill some holes through the 2x4s to be able to run basically straight down, and then there's that hole down there is where I'm going to pass the cables through in the electrical compartment. So I'll drill the holes through that first and then through the roof. That way I can pass the cables through, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, before I pass the wires through, I did mark which one's going to be positive, since they, as you can see here, got the cables ran. They're kind of stuck through that pass through on the ground there. So I'll just start feeding them through this hole, and that'll make it easier for me to remember which one's positive, which one's negative. These cables are longer than I need, so I'll trim them once I get them ran into the electrical box. But just so I wouldn't lose track of which one's positive. Alright, so I got my cables ran to the length I want. So before I attach this here, I'm going to put some lap sealant down around to set this on, and then I'm going to screw this cover on just to hold it, and then I'll cover it with lap sealant. So before I do that, I do want to tighten these up a little bit to make sure the cables are nice snug. Alright, I got those nice and snug, so I'm just going to put some of this lap sealant here. Not too worried about how it looks, it'll ooze out. This is just the roof. Alright, so now we're going to drop that on. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use some screws, some Tech screws, and just screw it through the roof here, just to hold it in place, and then I'll cover it with lap sealant. Alright, so I got that pass-through installed, screwed down, and just put a bunch of this lap sealant all the way around, just to make sure no leaks. The way I got it, it keeps popping up, so I figured the screws ain't gonna hurt nothing, especially if I got it sealed. So screws will help hold it down. But other than that, I need to plug that solar panel in to this string of cables here, and then those come back to the rear here. Let me show you here, sorry. So those will come back to the rear and they'll plug into here. Now keep in mind, these are the two cables that go to my charge controller. So right now they're just not hooked up to anything inside the camper. So I don't want to plug these two in until I have them hooked up to the charge controller. And you want to have your battery hooked up to the charge controller before you plug your solar panels in. So, and then if you ever have to, work on your solar panels, whatever, you can just unplug these, or you don't want solar power going into your charge controller. If you got to disconnect your battery, let's say you got to swap your battery out, you can come up here, unplug these two cables, so now that there's no solar power going to your charge controller, then you can safely disconnect your battery. But alright, so I got my solar panel cables hooked up into my charge controller here. Fairly simple to do. Just cut them to length, strip them back a little bit, insert them. Before you insert them, you'll unscrew. There's a flathead screwdriver. Unscrew it, press it in firmly, and tighten this all the way down, and make sure these cables are nice and snug in there. So I'm going to be installing an outlet in the galley here. And the way I'm going to do it is I got these boxes here from Home Depot. The nice thing with them is that you don't need to be next to a stud. These little flaps here, these will just, as you tighten them down, they'll lock onto the wall. So you don't need to be next to a stud. For the cord, for the power cord, I'm going to use this tool replacement cord, 14 gauge, 15 amp cord. I'm going to wire it to this outlet. So what I did is right above my switch for my inverter, I mounted the box. And then the outlet obviously will mount here. The outlet's going to have obviously two 110 plugs, and then it's got a USB, and I think that's a USB-C plug-in. Alright, so I got the outlet, the wire ran through the box, got wired up here to the outlet. So the green wire on this one is going to be the ground, white is neutral, and black is live. So, and it does show on the back here, you know, hot, neutral, and then ground. So I got that wired in here, and then under my, let me slide this up a little bit here real quick. So in my electrical box, I do have the solar hooked up right now. So the solar system is working. The inverter is working. So this is the cable here that's wired to the outlet. This will plug into the back of the inverter. And then if I want to hook up to shore power to conserve battery, I do have these two plugs that come and they go down out there, out to the side of the camper here to a shore power plug. So for now I'm going to hook up that, get the outlet installed all the way, get it plugged in, test it, and make sure everything's working. Alright, outlet's hooked up. The only thing I had available real quick was this little USB fan. But just to show you that it all works, if I turn the inverter on, now the fan comes on. So that's the, I guess, the first thing I have powered in here now. So next is to start trying to get some lights and stuff in here and get the rooftop vent also set up. So other than that, I'm really happy. It's going good.